Hello there. My name's Ross, and I played the Youngling in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, who goes up to Anakin and meets his demise, here to announce that I'm having my first ever charity MMA fight for Make-A-Wish UK. Yeah, so with the interview, my main goal is to raise funds for Make-A-Wish UK. I've got a few links. I can't remember if I sent them to you or not, but it's to my Just Giving site, and also I've got my autograph website where part of the proceeds will go to it. So,
and you'll be fighting on the 18th, right?
The 18th. So yes, it's only around 3 or 4 days to go. I find out who my opponent is tomorrow at the matchup event.
Oh wow, you don't even know.
No, so they've picked our opponents for us. They've watched us spar, and based upon our skill level and our weight, they will pair us up with someone who's fairly evenly matched, and to make the fight as fair as possible. Yeah, so There's about 40 or 50 people in my cohort locally who are all fighting in this one night and who are all raising money. And it's quite an easy thing to get into. All you need to do is to raise a minimum of £50 and to sell 10 tickets from friends and family, that kind of thing, and then you can fight on the day. So yeah, it's pretty accessible. I'm not sure if they have it in the US, but I'm sure it will start pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Is there any way that fans in the UK can tune in and watch it, or
it will be posted to my YouTube channel, Ross Beadman. Just search that up and the channel will pop up in the search results about 3 weeks after the fight. There is a slight delay between the recording actually being recorded and being released because it comes through the company itself, which is called UMMA, Ultra MMA. So we posted to their YouTube channel first, and I will repost it to my YouTube channel after that. And that's regardless if I win, if I lose, if it's a draw, I'll be posting that. Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah. And we'll have all those links in the description down below for any of you guys that want to donate and help out this awesome cause. Again, it's for charity. So the holiday season's coming up. Like, let's do some good in the world.
Yeah, it's for Make-A-Wish UK. So I know Make-A-Wish has much more of a presence in the States, but in the UK, it doesn't quite have that name recognition. Plus, it's affiliated with a lot of 501st groups in the UK. So the people who go out, they're all decked out in their Stormtrooper outfits or their Darth Vader outfits, and they do sometimes visit kids who are at the end of their lives, who are very, very ill, and they do that because they're affiliated with Make-A-Wish UK. So I thought personally it was the natural choice for me, since I know quite a few people in those circles in the 501st Garrison. Yeah,
that 501st organization, they've been around forever, and it's just such a good one. So cool. I remember they were at a con that I went to, one of the earliest ones, and they're just so fun when I was a little kid.
Yeah, you got to respect the people who are wearing those Stormtrooper outfits practically for almost 12 hours.
Yeah.
They might need a number 2, they might need a number 1, but they're brave and they keep in there and they try and hold the urge because it's the pain to take off. It takes about, I think, 5 to 10 minutes to take your outfit off. Crazy.
Yeah, man, that is crazy. Moving into a little bit of your role in Star Wars, obviously Revenge of the Sith, you played Source Bandim.
Yeah.
Obviously based off of your own name, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was really happy when I found out that I had an anagram.
Oh wow, you didn't know?
No, not they sent my character's name in an email about a couple weeks after shooting. And I was glad that they did, because in the premiere of Revenge of the Sith, I wasn't credited. I couldn't find my name anywhere on the credits. And yeah, when we looked at the film later, when it was released, I couldn't find my name there either. So I was thinking, crap, I'm not credited. And my only real easy proof that I was in it was my character's name. So say I was at a bar or at a social event, and my friend of mine said I was in Star Wars, and someone didn't believe me, I was able to search up my character's name, give them my profile on Facebook, and make the link there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad they gave me that name as well. It's pretty cool.
So can you tell us what sort of the process was? I imagine so much stress went into you actually being casted in the role to play, this youngling in Star Wars, essentially one of, if not the biggest, the most important movie of the decade, essentially. It must have been really intense.
Yeah, and a pivotal point in the franchise before is Anakin's true point where he can't really go back from.
Right.
That really leaves a mark on his progression towards the dark side. But before, when I was invited to turn up on set and film, I had no idea that I was even going to be picked in the first place. There was about 10 children in total, including me. And I wasn't really talking to many of them. I believe they were from local acting schools. And my only link to be invited to Shepperton Studios to be casted in it was because the casting agency involved in casting for Revenge of the Sith, the owner of that, used to work with my mum, and they hadn't talked to each other in a while, and then suddenly she fires my mum an email asking me if I'd like to be in Star Wars. So when I turn up on set, all these other kids, they're in a bit of a clique, they know each other. I was by myself, reading a book, not making many friends in the day. And because I practiced my line, which they sent to us as an email a few weeks before, every single day, my parents would tell me to practice the line, ask me, what's the line, Ross? And I'd say, Master Skywalker, there are too many of them, what are we going to do? Practically every day. It got very annoying, but I'm glad they did it. Because as soon as the casting director asked all of us, who knows the line, then all the other kids weren't listening, and I was the only person who did. I put my hand up first, and I said the line, and they said, we're going with you. Wow. And that's it. I didn't know. Yeah, I had no clue that I was going to have that speaking role at all until they just put me right in front of the cameras.
I bet that added a lot to sort of the fear that the character is supposed to experience in that moment. Just sort of flinging it on you that you're going to be speaking. And I think that comes through in the performance. Yes.
So as soon as I was picked as the person who's going to be speaking, Hayden was brought over and I had a little chat with him. He was super nice. He was very calm. But then in lights, camera, action, I was told what to do. I was told to give my line and then focus on Anakin's face and then be scared. And I kept making the mistake of looking down at his lightsaber when he used to go like that. On the fourth take, we managed to get it right, and Anakin shouted "boo," and that startled me naturally as well. Wow. We were told to be fearful because there were bad guys coming into the Jedi Temple, but we didn't realize. We weren't told that Anakin was leading that charge. We thought that Anakin was going to save us.
Oh man, that's what was told to you guys before you did the scene. You had no idea Anakin was going to be the aggressor.
Yeah, so they said bad guys are coming, but Anakin's here to save the day, essentially.
Wow. That's pretty smart on their end, right? That you get a real genuine reaction. Like the hero is now,
it makes it more tragic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked about this before, and I find it really interesting. But a lot of people say Anakin's turn is when he cuts off Mace Windu's hand, right, and sort of chooses to align with Palpatine. But for me, I've always thought that his scene with the younglings is his real turn, because there is some justification for him stopping Mace Windu. He's attacking the Chancellor. This is in favor of the Republic. But when Anakin crosses that line with the younglings, there's no good excuse for it.
Yeah, it's pretty irredeemable. You'd have to do something exceptionally powerful to get over that morally, for sure. Right. Yeah, and Anakin could have regretted his actions and made amends for doing that to Mace Windu. He didn't directly kill him. That was Palpatine. He could have realized that Palpatine was the one pulling the strings. But when you kill kids, it's a different level of evil, I guess. They're both evil, but yeah, there's levels to it for sure, and you definitely cross that line.
So what are your thoughts on essentially being in the most controversial scene in all of Star Wars? I mean, the only other rivalry I would guess would be the Luke and Leia kisses, but this one it's a scene that received mainstream criticism. So what are sort of your thoughts on that and the inclusion of such a violent act in something that a lot of people deem, a franchise for children?
Yeah, so when I view that personally as it relates to my own life, I'm really happy about it, because it's the only thing which has really given it that scene that much relevance. The fact that it's so dark and so controversial and so meme-worthy is the reason why I'm speaking to you right now, today, and why I've managed to raise quite a lot of money for my previous boxing fight earlier on in the year. It certainly helped me in that way. But I'm glad they made it from a purely what's the word? From an objective perspective, looking at it, I think it was a very brave decision to put that kind of scene in a kids film. And I don't believe that kids film should always be, airy fairy and everything goes right in the end. I think there is a time when children, as they begin to mature, they should be exposed to more darker elements, because that's what the world's like. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and people are mortal, and that includes kids, unfortunately.
Right. And the scene, it teaches, like you're saying, kids a really valuable lesson, and the famous saying that the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. And a lot of Anakin's intentions, morally, if you just get down to them, are good when it comes to saving his wife's life. But the corruption that Palpatine slowly gets in, and the dark side, causes him to literally become somebody that he isn't. And the identity of Anakin switches over to Vader. So with that, I sort of would love to hear your opinion on, do you perceive Anakin and Vader as different people? Do you perceive them as the same person? Or, are they actually two different?
I view Anakin as the good side of Vader, and Vader as the bad side of Anakin. And depending on where we are in the series, they're both at different power levels and have different strengths within Anakin. We'll call him Anakin for the sake of just thinking about this. So yeah, at the point where he's killed the younglings and he's so filled with rage and fear, Vader's completely taken over, and Anakin's a very small atom within his consciousness. Even from an objective perspective of killing the Jedi, I read that Palpatine was planning to spare the younglings and convert them into Sith, arguably the more moral choice. But because Anakin has withered away so much and the rage has overtaken him, he let that fly out the window, and the Jedi had to be killed at all costs, even the children. So no, I see Anakin as the good side and Vader as the bad side, and they can, the metaphor of the two wolves.
Yeah.
The one you feed is the one which grows the more powerful, which grows to be more powerful. I think it's the exact same thing with Anakin and Vader. Yeah.
That's very interesting. And I think a part of the Anakin Vader character that a lot of people don't really think about is there are times when Anakin is the dominant personality and Vader can appear, like with the Tuskens, or times where Vader is the dominant personality and Anakin can also manifest in some way. So it's not altogether linear, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure if Vader was caused by traumatic events in Anakin's past. Most likely it was. And at the end of the Return of the Jedi, I believe Vader throws Palpatine into the pit, the Death Star, and that's Anakin returning into Vader and growing, and it gets resolved. Otherwise, really, I don't think stuff. Yeah, I think if he was still Vader, he wouldn't have had a chance in the afterlife alongside Qui-Gon and the rest in the hologram scene, which you see. I don't think you kind of have that dynamic when Sith die. I'm not sure if there's a hell for them in the Star Wars franchise, or if I know in Legends there is. I know there is a hell that exists for Sith, but I'm not sure if that's a part of canon yet.
Yeah,
it's ever changing. Speaking of that, and a little bit of a lore thing before we switch into your fight, the justification for Anakin killing the younglings is that the younglings are too far gone and that they've been indoctrinated, and because of that, they cannot be spared. So what are your thoughts as sort of the representative of this innocence that is robbed for a reason that this twisted man is now justifying and saying that he's correct?
What do I think about his justification about it?
Yeah,
I think it's purely delusional. I think obviously when people are younger, their brains are more malleable, and I think Palpatine's choice would have been better to maintain a foothold for the Sith. I think that would have been the better choice, even from the perspective of the dark side. I believe Anakin did that because he felt that he was almost robbed of a childhood, or thrust in a position to be this powerful Jedi, the chosen one, and he didn't want that ability. He didn't want people under him to threaten that position. I think that's the reason why he chose to kill them. It wasn't rational at all. I think it's because of his childhood. Yeah,
that's super interesting. That like in this big pivotal moment, the individual that you think is the ultimate evil is doing the more morally correct act, while this person that is supposed to be the hero is, committing the reprehensible act. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the moral axis of Dungeons and Dragons. In that moment, Palpatine perhaps is more of a neutral evil or a lawful evil. And
he's very analytical, while Anakin's emotional.
Yeah. Yes, and that's why I love Palpatine so much as a villain. His political machinations and ability to hide in plain sight and almost take pleasure in that, and take pleasure in his own intelligence that he's fooling so many people. I think that's something which is reflected in real life as well when it comes to very powerful Machiavellian people. I think he's an exceptional villain, probably one of the best in fiction when it comes to just his power level and the amount of people he's able to affect. It's on a galactic scale, right? So it's bigger than Sauron in Lord of the Rings. It's bigger than perhaps any other character you could name.
Right. I love him because he's just irredeemable. Like, he's just unequivocally the villain, and there's no real aspect of him where you can relate to him. I just think that's so fun.
yeah, he doesn't have one compassionate atom in his body at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving over into your fight, how did you sort of get into training to prepare for something like this? Combat is a very stressful thing. It's something that humans have done from the very beginning since we've been around.
Yeah.
So how do you get into that, and how does like your mindset change when you get in a ring with another individual that is attempting to do you harm? What is that like?
Yeah. So I started combat sports with judo when I was younger. I didn't really take it seriously, and I started taking it much more seriously about 2 years ago, which is when I first picked up boxing. It was at the beginning of lockdown. I had nothing to do, and I wanted to walk through the world with more confidence. I wanted to be more confident and get fitter. I went to the gym before, did a bit of bodybuilding, which is okay. I built some strength, but it's not something you can really apply to many situations, I guess, aside from picking things up and putting them down. Boxing for me was much more dynamic, more fun, and it gave me more confidence than just building a bit of muscle would. And as I progressed with that, I did find out that I walk through the world with more ease. When you spar with people, and it's hard sparring, people are trying to essentially hurt you but not kill you. It does make other aspects of life less threatening. Your threshold for anxiety definitely increases, so that something which might have bothered you before will fall to the wayside because you've been punched in the face repeatedly, and you survived. You came out of it. And yes, stepping into a ring when you're not sparring anymore, when it's an actual match, is a lot different, especially when it's in front of many people. It's something I had to prepare for mentally. A mantra I told myself over and over again was that it's just a dance, and that helped me find my rhythm and become much and helped me become much more composed. I also told myself to lower the stakes. That it's not that serious, because when you do take it seriously, you become more tense. That's when you start to lose stamina in a fight, and when you start to have anxiety get inside you, it can sap your energy so much, psychologically and physically. And when your energy is sapped in a fight, it's very hard to concentrate on defending yourself against incoming punches or blows, and you won't be able to see opportunities when they come. So yeah, remaining calm is probably one of the most important things for me in my boxing fight, and I believe that caused me to win. The other person was gassed out in the 3rd round, and I was able to maintain my stamina because I was calm and I was finding better opportunities than the other guy. It is quite nerve-wracking, I can't lie. It's a mixture of fear and excitement. I believe that if you think of fear as a good thing, you will gain much more energy from that, for sure.
That's super interesting. You mentioned that before you did MMA, you did boxing. Has that transition been difficult? Has it been seamless? Have you found like your energy conservation sort of switches now that you have more weapons per se in MMA?
Yeah, so boxing's an amazing base to build stamina from. In boxing, you're always on the go, and the kind of conditioning that are in many boxing gyms, and the one I go to is very, 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 very good. So even though I didn't have much grappling experience outside of that, except from judo when I was a kid, I found that in the last 8 weeks of training, which we all get, I've been able to grapple with people, and I do not tire out nearly as easily, just because the boxing conditioning's been so good. We go on hill sprints, there's multiple rounds of bag work, there's like body exercise circuits. It's very intense.
Wow.
And especially when you go against people who perhaps have only done maybe a bit of BJJ, I feel like it's harder for them to transition to striking than it is for a striker to transition over to grappling, because the stakes are a little bit higher. It's a little bit more scary to be punched in the head than being choked out, where you can tap against your neck and they stop, in my opinion. Yeah.
So a part of Star Wars that I love is how different fighting styles contrast against one another. You mentioned earlier that you don't know who you're facing yet as an opponent. And I know that styles is massively important in MMA.
Absolutely.
Is there any sort of fear, or is it freeing almost that you don't know who you're facing? You're just going to fortify your strengths and be ready on the day. You know, it doesn't matter who's standing across from you.
Yeah, I'm aiming to win regardless of who's put in front of me. I'm pretty good, so I'm assuming they're going to be putting another person who's good against me. It will be likely someone who I've already sparred, and depending on who it is, will determine the probability of if I'm gonna win or not, and how much damage I'm gonna take, and what my game plan's gonna be. I get the best of most people I go against in sparring, but there are a few people who are quite challenging to spar against, and I need to change my strategy depending on who they are. So for example, if I'm going up against someone who's quite tall and lanky with a big range advantage, I'll probably try and focus more on staying out of their range, wait until they punch, then do a bit of counter punching, focusing up top, so preoccupying them with trying to defend blows to the head, and then I can scoop in for a takedown and get them on the ground that way, where I have the advantage, not where they're picking me off from a kickboxing stance and tagging me all the time and I can't get in. So yeah, a lot of slips, a lot of head movement will be better for me when they're much taller, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just one more question before we sign off. Where is your end goal with this MMA thing? The transition is crazy. You've had such like a wide varying career so far, and it seems like this is the thing that you're really honing in on, that you're really passionate about. Where ideally do you see yourself in the future?
Yeah, so I'd really like to compete in the amateurs when it comes to boxing. I'd like to take more amateur BJJ competitions as well to strengthen my weaknesses in that regard, and have a few amateur MMA fights too. So a bit of a mix of developing my skills in amateur boxing and amateur MMA. I want to have about 20 fights under my belt. And yeah, depending on how well the exposure for this fight goes and my appearances down the line for conventions and that kind of thing, maybe there's a chance for me to get in the Misfits boxing circuit as well. So maybe a little bit of influencer boxing or influencer MMA if that ever grows into more of an entity. So yeah, there's many paths I can take with it, but I just want to become a good fighter, someone who can defend themselves, who has a skill in that regard, and a skill that I can pass down to my future children. That's my goal with it. That's the ultimate goal. But if I make money down the road with it, if I have amateur tournaments, I get some wins and losses under my belt, that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great end goal. And I know Misfits is huge. I'm a big fan of influencer boxing too. You know, I buy pretty much every pay-per-view. They're so entertaining. It's
yeah, you're not going there to see the masters at work, that's for sure. It's its own thing, it's its own entity. Right. And it doesn't take away from traditional boxing at all, because it is its own entity and it's a bit more experimental. I think in the recent card they even had a tag team match in boxing, which was very entertaining, and I think that's a great idea. People hate on influencer boxing a lot, but if they just see it for what it is, I think they can get over that for sure.
Oh yeah, it looks so fun, and to see people that aren't, like you're saying, professionals get in there and just try as hard as they can and just go almost half on grit and half on what they've learned.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
Yeah, and I have respect for a lot of people who choose to step in a ring and do something which takes a lot of guts to do. So yeah, respect to them. Yeah, I think it's bringing back, yeah, like you were saying, a very primal thing, which we've lost a little bit in the 21st century. So I'm glad that there's a physical culture coming back where more people are interested in learning self-defense, getting into combat sports, and that transitions over to just the regular gym culture as well. I think certainly the new generation are more interested in it than people were 20, 30 years ago. I think that's very positive. Yeah,
it's a very healthy outlet. If you're okay, I know I said I had one more, but I actually have a bonus one.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one is more relating to Star Wars and sort of where you are now. If Lucasfilm called, what would be your level of interest in returning potentially? I know it's Star Wars and anybody can survive anything. If Lucasfilm were interested in, giving you a story, which I think could be really compelling, would you want to return? Is that something that you would, put some thought into?
Without a doubt, yeah. So I'd even be happy to just be brought on again as an extra who gets killed off every episode.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think I'd like that. I'd love to be an Easter egg who's in the background and dies and in every scene. I think that'll be awesome. But yeah, if I get my own little dedicated standalone series, or if I'm a side character in a slightly more higher position than I was when I was 6 years old in Revenge of the Sith, that'll be perfect. So I'm open to any suggestions from Lucasfilm. Yeah, if anyone's from Disney, give me a call.
Yeah, no, they absolutely should. I bet the fans would lose it seeing you in like a Disney Plus show. That would be an exceptional Easter egg, because I know among the fans your character is exceptionally popular for the amount of screen time. So
without a doubt, on fan service alone, I think Disney will be getting the win there. So
well, thank you so much, Ross. We'll be sure to link all your socials and the Make-A-Wish in the description. Is there anything else you want to end off on? Talk to some of the fans?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just give people some more details about how they can excuse me, how they can donate. So the Make-A-Wish link is in the description. It's through Just Giving if you want to donate through there directly, or if you're interested in getting a customized autograph, it looks like this with the scene on, you can go to www.soulsautos.com, and that'll be linked in the description too, and part of the proceeds will go to Make-A-Wish UK as well. So those are the two ways which you can contribute to Make-A-Wish UK and support me in my fight. I'm aiming to raise about 1.5k, and if we can get even a little bit towards that, we're hovering around £1,000 now, I'll be so happy. So thank you guys for having me on, for making me able to promote myself and the charity like this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor. So I appreciate it so much.